This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade, it's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Welcome everyone to the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I'm your host Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the United States and beyond. Throughout these fall months, we've had the privilege of conversing with some remarkable individuals. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. In this week's episode, we're heading down to the American Southwest to talk to an amazing individual. Her name is Britt, and you can follow her on Instagram at Wanders with Britt. Britt shares with us some of her favorite places in and around Arizona, including the Tonto National Forest and more. We also hear about her experiences not just at Arizona's 3 national parks, but her incredible trip visiting Utah's Mighty Five. Britt also shares with us her experiences seeing the majestic Salt River wild horses. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guest, Britt. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mikes podcast. I have a really amazing guest with me today. She's going to be talking about a place that's really dear to my heart. That's Arizona. Brittany, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. We always like to start off by having our guests share a little bit about themselves and how they got started hiking.
Well, thank you so much, Ivan, for having me and featuring me. I've been a fan of yours for the last couple years, and kind of seeing how you've grown your network and the community within the outdoors has really been amazing to see that expand. A little bit about myself, Britt or Brittany. Ivan asked earlier what I prefer, and I always say I'll respond to anything that is nice. So Britt or Brittany is what I go by, and any other iterations of that. You could call me a native Arizonan. I moved here when I was about 9 after my dad retired from the military. Loved Arizona since. Not until about 15 years ago did I really get into the outdoors. I've always had a passion for traveling, being the co-pilot within our road trips that we took every summer with my family, learning how to use an atlas before there was MapQuest and we had to print out things has really brought my passion for the outdoors and nature and travel. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and the reason why I started my page was to kind of be a blog for her and show her how cool mommy was. I had a goal to just travel day hikes and take that be my diary on this day during this time. My mommy went here. And look at all the cool things she did by herself. Most of the time, they're solo. Until recently, the last couple of years, I've had opportunities to invite friends and family with me. But really, the outdoors has been my solace. That really picked up in 2019, where I made it my goal and joined the 52-week hike challenge, where I hiked every week for a year. And that was really rewarding to accomplish that in 2020. I then expanded it the next year to double it. And then I did, if I can do the math right quick in my head, 104 hikes in a year. And then in 2021, I decided to redo my hikes that I did, the 104, and use it as an opportunity to reflect reflect on where I've been as an individual and really focused on my mental and emotional well-being because of all the changes that had happened, not just because of the pandemic, but in my personal life and professional life as well. Really seeing the growth in Britt and where she can wander along the way.
And it's been such an amazing journey that you've been able to share on Instagram, Brittany, from your solo adventures to taking your daughter on hikes and even on camping trips. And for me personally, living in Arizona for 2 years, I kind of get to relive some of my favorite places on your page because one place that you feature a lot is the Tonto National Forest. And that was like my favorite stomping ground there in Arizona. And to see all those special trails and the viewpoints on your Instagram has been a really great down memory lane for me. But it's slowly shifting into the fall season across the United States. And for a lot of us up north, that means colder weather. But for Arizona, it's like one of the prime hiking seasons of the year. But before we get into that, I do want to ask, how was your summer hiking season?
My summer hiking season really happens early in the mornings. And I mean early. To my family and friends, they think I'm a little bit loopy to wake up at 2 a.m. to get to a trailhead by 3, sometimes 4, depending on how far it is, to really hike to the sunrise. So my summer has been full of early mornings and or road trips up north. The beautiful thing about Arizona is like 2 hours in any direction, northwest, south, east. I think I got all of them there. You can have a different climate and temperament and cooler weather. There's water all over the place. So it's quite spectacular.
That's one thing I quickly learned. If you want to get hikes in during the summer months, you do it early in the morning to beat the heat or later in the afternoon once the sun goes down. Are there any other tips or advice for folks that maybe are visiting Arizona during the summer months, but they still want to go out and enjoy the trails that you could share with us?
Yeah, that's a great question. During the summer months, hiking in the Phoenix local metropolitan area, please make sure that you go out before the sun rises or after it sets or shortly before it sets. Bring a ton of water. I see many people in the summer months starting the trailheads when I'm ending it and maybe carrying a water bottle or not having the appropriate shoes. And anything in the Phoenix area or in the desert will poke you and hurt you. So making sure that you have the appropriate attire. I wear my Tevas a lot, but they have really good traction and I know kind of the grounds if they're maintained or not. So definitely hiking in Phoenix, make sure you go early before the sun rises. You really don't see anyone out and about past noon or 10 o'clock. So plan accordingly, drink water, bring a lot of water, or travel up north in Flagstaff, Sedona, that high area if you're coming to Phoenix and you want to hike in the daytime.
And how would you describe the hiking scene in and around your local neck of the woods?
So my local area, I'm very fortunate to be close to the Tonto National Forest and be a part of all the outdoor communities, mountain biking, paddle boarding, kayaking, anything outdoors. So how I would describe it is busy. And that's purposeful because I like to surround myself with individuals that like my interest as well. And I would say busy, and I would say something along the lines of safety or be cautious in a sense. That would be, again, I want to emphasize being prepared when you hike and having the right equipment and water. There's oftentimes in the summer, people come ill prepared and have to get rescued, and that's not fun seeing.
Yeah, very true. And as you were describing, we're going into this time of year where Arizona is really going to pop off with being able to hike throughout the days. And I feel like people have this misconception that Arizona is just desert. And you've touched on some places that are beautiful. They get a ton of snow, and you guys actually have some of the prettiest fall colors up north. for you, who's been able to showcase some of those fall colors like in Flagstaff, going into the fall hiking season, especially in and around your local area, are there any favorite destinations or trailheads you're looking forward to checking out as soon as the temps cool down?
Well, up in Flagstaff, Aspen Corner is always a go-to to see the leaves change and just sit there. And if you see me on the trails, I'm probably doing something weird with my camera because I see something in the sunlight or something I want to capture that really tries to emphasize what I'm seeing in with my eyes. My camera is never as vivid as my eyes see it. So going up to Aspen Corner is always a good one. Riding the gondolas there on the resort and seeing it at a different bird's eye view is always nice to have a different perspective. Also, traveling to the White Mountains. Those have wonderful areas where you can see the aspens with less crowds. And there's parts of Tonto National Forest that are high enough and lush enough that you'll see those fall changing colors. But what I'm really looking forward to is really getting to the Superstition Mountains. Those are my favorite mountain ranges in Phoenix, not just because they look really cool, but the area and the scenery, even in the high desert, changes just with the monsoons and the raining season, the wildflowers, the saguaro blooms. To see it evolve is really cool on the Superstition. So getting out and back into the Superstition Mountains with all of the lakes and water passages throughout there is what I'm looking forward to.
Nice. And I'm glad you mentioned the saguaro blooms because all the desert blooms are pretty and spectacular, but those saguaro blooms in peak season, it's just a sight to see. Now, we kind of touched on this already, but especially if you're based out of Phoenix, you can really travel in any direction and be in a completely different landscape. For you that's been able to explore a lot of the regions in and around Arizona, what are some of your favorite regions or places to visit around the state?
That's really tough. Been asked this question several times from people that I meet or just my friends and family, like, where's your favorite spot to go? The reason why I chose my house is not because it's in the Tonto National Forest, but because it's 2 turns to one of the places and a trailhead that I go to pretty often to get my zen and get centered. Sitting there and driving the 87 and all the way up into Payson really allows me time to reflect and reset when I get out to the trailhead. And it's one of the ones close to Waterwheel. You sit on the edge of this slot canyon, you feel the breeze, you hear the rushing water, and I just sit there and I meditate. So one of my favorite places would be in Payson and anywhere in the Mogollon Rim, up in the northern part of Tonto National Forest.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. That was one of my favorite drives to make from Phoenix to Payson because you get the desert landscape, and I love, especially on the way back, you can see Weaver's Needle in the distance, and then once you get to Payson, it's a whole different landscape. And I think I've been able to visit those slot canyons, and they just are amazing because they kind of seem a little out of place because it is a very like forested area, but you have these beautiful rock formations and canyons with just a ton of water, especially with the snow melt. When it comes to like the Payson area, have you been able to visit? I'm blanking on the name. Brittany, you might have to help me out. It's a state park that's known for a natural bridge.
Yeah, that's it. You got it right. I've been there. It's definitely one of the popular places to go and visit in Arizona. I try and avoid a lot of those places just to get my zen. However, it is beautiful. You can hike up and down it. You can see kind of the dynamics of Payson with the granite dwellings, the waterfall, slot canyons, and it's quite unique. As you know, I've been seeing the granite and the rock formations with pines and then also cacti in between it. It's super surreal, like especially when you go to the south rim of the Grand Canyon and you see that as well. And then snow on top of it and elk. It's like, hey, why did we pick all these types of vegetations or plants to be in one area? How does this even make sense here? It's pretty surreal to see everything there.
I'm glad you mentioned the Grand Canyon because Arizona is distinct in this arena as well because you guys have 3 very distinct national parks in the state, with each one providing a unique experience to visitors. What's been your experience visiting the national parks in Arizona?
Well, as you've said, Ivan, they're very dynamic and distinct. Just like 2 hours in any direction from Phoenix, you'll get kind of a different vibe. Same with the national parks. While they're still in Arizona, the Grand Canyon is more in the north central region of Arizona, maybe a little bit more western. And the Petrified Forest, we have more east, northeast-ish. And then the saguaro in Tucson, south of Phoenix. All of which are about 4.5 hours from Phoenix or less. So those are really cool. But of the national parks, they all have their different beauties based off the season. Saguaros National Park, obviously you'll see a lot of saguaros, hence the name here. And the best time to go there would be when the saguaro cactus bloom. And that's around April, June-ish. And it's really unique because they only open for 24 hours. They blossom at night and then they close during the day and people harvest them and you can eat them. Those are really good to visit in those times. And Grand Canyon, I mean, it's the Grand Canyon here. I haven't had an opportunity to do rim to rim. I want to. I've been planning for it. I haven't decided if I want to camp down or just do it straight cross and, still work on my cardio there. But nevertheless, the Grand Canyon is beautiful. And then the Petrified Forest, I would say, is one of the most underrated national parks. It's quite small and you can do a lot of it in a day. And, you could take a whole weekend to do all the trails and really take to the different sceneries that they have. But even in that one road, you can go to the Blue Mounds and then you can walk through the forest, which, surprise, if you don't know this, there's not actual trees that are standing at the Petrified Forest. They're all petrified and hence frozen on the ground. So tip there. But those 3 national parks, depending on the time of year, are really cool and dynamic, as you've seen.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you with Petrified Forest National Park being underrated. I was really impressed with the national park there because we started on the north end of it by the visitor center, and that's a different landscape than the Blue Mounds. And great thing I loved about it is a lot of the viewpoints or the specific pullouts were very accessible to a lot of people with different abilities, and even folks with disabilities could access a lot of the trails, which was really great to see.
Yeah, that's one unique thing that I really like. My grandma's been living with me. She'll turn 94 this year. I call her my second mom. In fact, I'm Filipino, so I call her Nanay, which actually means mom. So she's definitely my second mom there, but she is now wheelchair bound and does limited walking. So that's one of the places that I take her is the Petrified National Forest. And she can actually go on the trails with me. I'll push her and get more of a workout up and down those Blue Mounds, but at least she gets to experience it with me. And I definitely agree, Ivan. If you're looking for a national park in Arizona that is fun, family friendly, it's also pet friendly. Not all national parks are allowing pets, but all ages, all abilities. The Petrified National Forest is definitely a good one.
That's really great that you've been able to share that experience with your grandma and be able to share that national park. That's awesome. Now, for me personally, I feel like outside of the national park system, Arizona has not just some incredible national monuments, but some state parks. Like one of my favorite was the Lost Dutchman. What have been some of your favorite national monuments or state parks to visit there in the state?
Oh gosh. State parks, you've called it. Lost Dutchman, that's there in the superstitions. And doing that Gold Mines Loop or Green Boulder Loop actually is one of my favorites. It was a quick hike. I used to take my daughter on it all the time on my back. in a carrier, and now she just runs alongside me, or if she gets extra tired, then she goes on my shoulders, and it's just extra fun for mommy. But national parks, one good one is like Glen Canyon Recreation Area. That's not necessarily a state park, but up in Page, they have beautiful things to see, a lot of trails. You're up there close to the north and south parts of the Grand Canyon as well. Vermilion Cliffs, White Pocket, Sarah Park and Lake Havasu had an opportunity to visit last year, and I haven't had a chance to really explore the outdoors at Lake Havasu, but in Sarah Park, there was this cool one called Sarah's Crack, and I picked it because it was just a little bit punny there. It turned out to be actually pretty cool because you went through a slot canyon and then you ended up in kind of this, I think it's the Colorado River that you saw, or part of Lake Havasu, which is pretty cool. Other parks or monuments to visit, oh gosh, like Walnut Canyon is really cool. Chiricahua is a really cool one. Those ones have these boulders, large boulders, and like cave dwellings where you can see the moss in them. And it's quite fascinating how the rock formations happened. It almost looks like those.
The Karens?
Thank you for helping me. I was going to say something else and I just didn't want to be. So I'm glad that you can see me on camera as I am pantomiming these things. We'll be really good at Pictionary together. Right.
Yeah, Chiricahua, I never got a chance to make it, but it's on my bucket list. And you've touched on this already. Arizona might be thought of as a desert landscape, which it does have a desert landscape, but it also boasts some impressive water features throughout the state, from waterfalls to lakes and rivers. And you've been able to showcase a lot of those beautiful, not just waterfalls, but lakes and rivers that Arizona has to offer. What have been some of your favorite water destinations to visit?
This one's a hard one too. And they all have different beauties to me based off perspective and what I'm doing. So I'm not always on the trails. I like to challenge myself and go out on the water, kayaking or paddleboarding. I love paddleboarding, but favorite places to see the water. The Salt River is always a great one. That one, you wake up super early and see the sun rise. And that is where you're more likely to see the wild horses that cross the streams. I see them very early in the morning, and it's just majestic to kind of see this fairy tale animal, in a sense, just galloping across the water with ease as I struggle to sometimes stand up on my paddleboard. So the Salt River is definitely nice, especially during the summer. If you need to beat the heat in AZ, go there. But again, bring a lot of water, especially if you're tubing. Other great places, Lake Mead is really nice up there in the Vegas area. You can do Emerald Cove over there. The Colorado River is really, really nice. Up in Glen Canyon, there's this really cool trail, and that is called Cathedral Wash Trail. You go through a slot canyon. I wouldn't recommend bringing any kid under 6 or a kid that is not used to hiking or outdoors, because there's some spots where you are traversing through a slot canyon ledge that opens up into a ravine. It's a little bit sketchy, but it's beautiful because you go through the desert and the sand and these sheer cliffs to open up to the Colorado River. And I saw some horses there, and you can just cool off in the Colorado River, which is always super cold, but really nice. Those are a few of my favorite spots to go to the water and really cool down during the summer heat. There's so many lakes that you can go and paddleboard and kayak and hike to relax.
Now, Brittany, the two other waterfalls that I wanted to touch base with you is, I'm going to butcher the name of it, but how do you pronounce it?
Sibique Falls.
That one is unbelievable, and you got a chance to swim in there. And then I believe you got a chance to visit the Colorado River, and every spring runoff, it looks like chocolate milk flowing over the waterfalls, but I believe it's closed now to the public, right?
Yeah, it's closed. Both of those locations are on reservation land, so So in order to get there, you need to have permits and make sure that you're following the pack it up and leaving the trails nicer actually than you found them. So yeah, they're both on reservation lands. They're both a part of the Colorado River. Sibique is in Tonto National Forest or not too far from that. That's beautiful. Through a canyon. I bring my daughter. You cross streams and pools, and sometimes you're bushwhacking depending on how lush the trail is. Be prepared for that, or you're going to get a bunch of bruises and scratches along your legs. But that one is a sight to see. Then Grand Falls, it's what the other one is called. That is up on reservation land as well. So you want to make sure that you're leaving it better, if not as nice as how you've seen it. Honestly, it almost feels like a second Grand Canyon to me, especially when the water is flowing. I mean, one, it's massive. The pictures that I put on any of my posts never do as much justice as I see it through my eyes, but it's massive. And to see the Chocolate Falls happen, it's up near Flagstaff in that area as well. So you can hit a few parts of Sunset Crater. You can also see the meteor site there and a lot of other fun places in Flagstaff, like the lava tubes, caves, are different surreal sights to see in Arizona.
Now, Brittany, you've been able to visit some amazing places outside of Arizona and the Southwest, especially that Four Corners region. It's really a great place to go to adventures in different states and do it in a day drive. What have been some of your favorite places to visit outside of the state?
Oh gosh, Utah is my favorite to visit. And a couple years ago, I celebrated my birthday by doing the Mighty Five in 3 days.
Wow.
A little crazy, 22 hours of driving, but being able to hit all the national parks there in the Mighty Five, quite a big loop. Definitely need to experience a few of them in more depth, especially Canyonlands, Capitol Reef, and Moab area where the arches are. I've explored a lot of Zion and Bryce Canyon. Zion's actually one of my second favorite trails in the world to really visit, and that's Angel's Landing. When I started really focusing on capturing my outdoor ventures and started my 52-week hike challenge in 2019, Angel's Landing was definitely one that I had like first on my list. I started it in January too, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with the topography of southern Utah in January, but there's snow. But Angel's Landing, I've done that 4 times, all solo, all covered in ice. And I had to learn how to buy different gear with spikes and how to really traverse, especially the last half mile, that ridge line in ice. And I've had to let go and really just hope I reach those chains in time. So outside of Arizona, Utah is my favorite. And then I really want to go see more of Colorado and the national parks there. I've only had a chance to see 14 of the 63 national parks. So Colorado is definitely on my next venture, especially learning how to hike in the snow. That's something new to me.
Now, Brittany, one thing that I've noticed over the last year or two is you've gotten to explore a lot of the Arizona landscape by kind of, would you call it not off-roading, but like overlanding?
Yeah. So that's something new that I've just started, and I'm super excited to kind of see the trails in a different perspective, because trailheads that you're able to just drive up to are a different experience than overlanding and trailblazing yourself and finding those different spots that you can't reach easily by just driving up to. So Vermilion Cliffs is on my next to overland, and then a few other places in southern Utah and Page to really explore. Those are high desert as well. So I would definitely have to wait until November, December is when I'm targeting that January. Overlanding is a new thing. Super, super scary to think. Like in my head, I'm like playing with these toy cars cars or, like those race cars, remote control cars. And you see how easy they just do the jumps and, with ease and grace and not a lot of noises, but to actually traverse on a vehicle with it is definitely a different adrenaline rush that I never thought that I would have. So it's exciting. It's definitely something new, but hopefully I'll continue to explore it more.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing some of the different destinations that you're able to visit by overlanding because, for folks that don't have a high clearance vehicle, it could be tough to make it out to some of those unique and beautiful spots. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing your growth in that avenue, exploring the outdoors. Now, one of the last questions I wanted to ask you, and you've kind of mentioned them already, but we like to do a segment here on the podcast where we do a deep dive into our guest Instagram and ask them about either a post or a series of posts or a location that captured our attention. And these beauties kept coming up on your feed. You got to capture them up close several times. And that's the Salt River wild horses, which I only got to see them from a distance, but they are just unique beauties out in the desert. What have been some of your favorite experiences coming across these famous Salt River wild horses?
A few of my favorite experiences are seeing them just in their majesty on the water or treading through the water. Visitors of Phoenix and just even people who are native to Phoenix or Arizona are needing to have caution when you are seeing these wild horses because there's an emphasis on wild. So they're not tame. They will charge, especially if they have their young there. You need to maintain your distance. The closest I've encountered them is on the Salt River. They were passing me on my paddleboard and I didn't realize I was going that fast and taking with the current, almost ran into one, which was not good. So I was backpedaling as good as I could. At that point in the morning, they had released the water. So the current was very strong. If you're paddleboarding, make sure you go below 10 knots for your safety. Anything above, you should use a kayak. That's some water safety for you. I learned the hard way, but that'll be another story there. But almost running into one as they crossed the river was just really surreal to see how majestic they looked. Salt River horses, you can see them all over the place, but just be mindful that they are wild and they can and will hurt you if you encroach on their territory. So while beautiful, maintain your distance, and like the bison and Yellowstone, keep your distance.
Now, Britt, we're getting to the last couple questions of the podcast, and these are questions we like to ask everybody that comes on as a guest. The first one is there any regular routine or ritual that you might do on the trails, whether it's a summit routine or end of the hike routine? For a lot of us, it's packing a favorite snack or drink. For others, it's the moment of zen. And then for a lot of us, it's the favorite meal afterwards. Is there any regular customs or routines that you like to do when you reach your destination or maybe when you make it back out?
Oh, that's funny. I was thinking about all these jokes I was going to say in my head, and the one that sticks out the most is the ritual I like to do on the trail is survive it. That's what I do because, granted, it's myself. Yes, I take the precautions. I do my research. I pack accordingly. I have my safety gear and such. But my ritual is to motivate myself and survive. I don't like inclines, but I do them. Switchbacks, hard. So my ritual is to survive and to process and just really reflect, especially redoing trails that I frequent and seeing my progress. I just recently started trail running about a month ago. So seeing this peak that I do pretty often take me initially an hour and 10 minutes, cutting down to almost 30 minutes is really cool to see my immediate growth there, just physically, but mentally, emotionally. I just reflect and survive and then repeat. Honestly, Ivan, reflect, survive, repeat. I'll put it on a shirt.
I like that. Yeah, you should. A little RSR. And I mean, you're 100% success rate on doing this ritual. And I will say the people that I know that are trail runners, they have mentioned like it's a different level awareness on the trail where you notice things a little bit more, I would say, in higher definition, because you are looking for those potential obstacles or tripping hazards. So you become aware of your surroundings a little bit more than if you're just casually hiking. For this next question, Britt, it's about your pack list. And I'm interested in finding out, for you personally, is there a luxury item that you tend to pack that falls outside of the essentials?
You know, Ivan, I'm a mom, so I pack for a lot of things regularly. What would I bring that is an essential that maybe not an essential to hiking per se? Oh gosh, I would say a chapstick. That's a boring one, but chapstick. I love me some chapstick, some tinted chapstick. So in the event I need to take any pictures with my face, I don't look washed out. My Tevas are my favorite to wear. I pack always like multiple pieces of clothing, different types of shoes, extra pairs of socks. And mace is always a luxury item that not everyone considers bringing, especially if you solo a hike. It's something that keeps me safe on the trails as well. And yeah, pretty boring. Chapstick.
No, that's clutch, Britt. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because I made the mistake of thinking, like, I'm moving from Hawaii to Arizona. Like, I know direct sunlight and how it impacts me. But I quickly learned, and floating the Salt River, that you need chapstick with SPF because your lips will get burned if you don't protect them.
Yeah, I'm pretty practical when it comes to that sense.
Now, this last question, and, we're getting to the last quarter of the year, the fall hiking season. Is there any hiking or travel goals that you have for the remainder of 2024, or maybe coming up in 2025?
So for 2024, my birthday is in the fall. So it's in October, and I'm wanting to go and visit the Redwoods. That's been on my bucket list for 2 years now. So if not 2024 to round up 2025, I really want to make sure that I'm targeting that and getting out almost in your neck of the woods there, Ivan, at least closer to you. So Redwoods is definitely on my list. Continue to trail run, get more overlanding in there, and really seeing nature through different perspectives like we talked about, whether it's fast pace in trail running, slow when you're hiking, paddleboarding, kayaking, or on a mountain bike. You kind of experience the same old trails or destinations differently through that perspective. So challenging myself to not only traverse the same landscapes that I did, but through a different lens.
And I'm looking forward to seeing what the end of the year has to offer and what 2025 has to offer for you. I think you're going to be going on some amazing adventures here in the next couple of months. Brittany, we're getting to the end of the podcast. This section is the this or that questions. I'm going to give you 2 hiking related topics, and you choose which one you prefer out of the 2. And you can say both if you can't decide, or neither. But the first one is, do you prefer hiking in the summer months or in the fall?
In Arizona, I would say the fall. So when it is nice, if you remember the 3 seasons, wet, hot, and nice.
And this one's a tough one. Waterfalls or summits?
Oh man, I want to say both, but I feel like that's a cop-out. Summits is where I'm going to go, because I can't get me enough of those sunrises and sunsets. The symbolism in that, where you can see new beginnings each day and endings, is just one of the blessings in life. So
now, this one you've alluded to during our recording, but switchbacks or straight up?
Oh gosh, neither. But if I had to pick and you're holding me to it, I would do a switchback. Even though you're marking your way, and this is how I survive through my trails, is, okay, gotta make it to this cactus, gotta make it to this end mark. Switchbacks, it's like you get deja vu all over again because you're seeing the same spots. I guess switchbacks.
This one's the most controversial one, but trek poles or freehand?
Oh man, I do a lot of freehand. I only use trek poles if I'm going through streams that are really deep or uneven grounds, which is really rocky and everywhere in Arizona, but the super uneven ones there. So I would say freehand, at least for what I've had the opportunity to experience.
And this next one's about your footwear. Do you wear traditional hiking boots or trail runners?
Oh, traditional hiking boots. I like the extra support that I have there on my ankles. I've just recently got into trail running, so those trail shoes are nice, but you can't beat my extra support in traditional hiking boots that are tall, not the shorty ones.
And now this one's another trail system question, but do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
These are hard. A loop, depending on the time of day. The out and back is really cool because it's easy to trek and remember, at least for me, because I've been doing it so long, of just reminding yourself through the geology, like where you've been and if you're on the right spot. The loop is kind of hard sometimes if you're not familiar with the different tracking that you see on the trails or how to navigate them. So out and back is, I think, the easiest for a beginner hiker.
And then this one's one of the new ones for the season, but if you had to choose between these type of conditions on the trail, would you prefer a muddy trail or an extremely rocky trail?
Rocky. I didn't even have to think rocky for sure.
And then these two are the hardest ones in my opinion, but the first one is sunset hikes or sunrise hikes.
Oh man. Okay. I would say sunrise for me, mainly because I can survive the trails without a lot of company and I can really reflect and then repeat it again. It's always the best time to go, especially in Arizona when it's hot, and it'll keep to my circadian rhythm. So sunrises it is. Sunsets, more popular, especially for individuals that are not early birds like me, more crowded, and I like the peace in nature.
And then this next one, Arizona, is known for both of these, but the spring wildflowers or the fall colors?
Oh gosh, these are so hard. You know, that super bloom a couple years ago with the poppies from California, amazing. Got to see them with the horses in there and, did the whole thing with my daughter, photo shoot thing. But wildflowers or fall colors, I would say, and my friends, they know me. I always go fall colors and I love fall. I have to say the wildflowers, mainly because you see so many diverse flowers in Arizona and flowers on cactus that you're like, wow, this thing is like prickly and kind of green and spiky and not inviting. To see it bloom with these, not just saguaro blooms, but those different blooms of the prickly pear and the vibrant colors are just so pretty. So flowers.
Now, this last one, Brittany, is another tough one, but if you had to choose between these two, would you choose a steep climb or long distance hike?
Oh gosh, not the steep climb. It would be a long distance hike.
Well, that was it, Brittany, for the this or that questions. For folks that want to follow your adventures on Instagram or on other social media, where are some of the places they can follow you along?
Yeah, so if you want to check me out and really put to the color that I added here in this episode, follow me at Instagram. My handle is Wanders with Britt, 2 T's. You can follow me there and check out kind of my diary that I created for my daughter and see me survive the trailheads.
And we'll be sure to put the link in the episode show notes so people can check you out. Brittany, it was a blast talking to you, and you got me reminiscing about Arizona, and it's just been great to hear about your adventures. I just thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ivan. And when you come out during the nice season again, feel free to reach out, and I'll definitely share my recommendations for visiting Zion in the near future. Thank you so much for having me.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Britt. We extend a heartfelt thanks to her for coming on the podcast. Make sure to follow her adventures on Instagram at Wanders with Britt. Also, don't forget to check out the episode show notes for more. We have an incredible lineup of episodes planned throughout the fall months, and we can't wait to share them with you. New episodes will be dropping every Monday, with occasional bonus episodes on Fridays. To ensure that you never miss out on those thrilling tales, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to join our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. Hey everyone, hope you've all been enjoying the trails this summer. I gotta be honest, leading group hikes is a blast, but capturing all the amazing memories can be a challenge. That's where our new podcast sponsor, the Cameo Journal, comes in. This thing's built for travelers and hikers by fellow adventurers. It's a pocket-sized rugged journal designed for you to collect up to 100 entries from all your trailmates, your life guests, and anyone else you meet along the way. Basically, it can be a guest book for your travels and an awesome keepsake. Logan over at the Cameo Journal is a backpacker himself and put all his love for travel into the design. So if you're looking to level up your hiking adventures, head over to thecameojournal.com to grab one not just for yourself, but for your crew too.